He called me in the office and said, hey, I just want to let you know there's been an emergency. Everything's okay, but your son had a seizure. So we go out there, and of course, it's not what you want to see. I mean, your son's got tubes coming out his nose and mouth and everything. Essentially, something's wrong. We took x-rays. They said we found a mass, and it's in his left frontal lobe, and we don't know what it is yet. And the doc says, well, I hate to say it, but we've got a task ahead of us. The biopsy came back, and it's a tumor. We started out the Andrew Rypien Foundation to honor him and the work at the hospital, but one thing we wanted to do is make the quality of care for the child palatable.
That seems the way out of, for a lot of people, just a despair, depression, or a tragic loss is to start contributing.
Yeah, it's pain into purpose. You've turned pain into purpose.
This was a great direction and pathway to something to remember Andrew and also make the life a little easier.
Giving back heals the soul. This is how we're fighting back against the evil that destroys freedom and innocence around the world. One of the things that we actually do by inspiring other people to stop their victimhood and stop their complaining is to go do something, go help someone, be grateful. Somehow I feel like we're fighting back against the system that's actually destroying freedoms. So you guys, this is going to be really fun. We got Mark Rypien in the house. I don't know how many people out there know Mark Rypien, but for 10 years I've been hearing this guy's name circulate this local community. This is one of the biggest givers in town, but many people that are into sports do know Mark Rypien. We're sitting next to someone that's done something really rare in life. It's one thing to make it to the NFL. It's another thing to get to the Super Bowl. It's another thing to win the Super Bowl, but it's a whole nother thing to become the Super Bowl MVP. So you can tell when you just get around Mark, there's a deep story here that goes far beyond just winning in life and sports. And that's what I'm hoping to get here. With Man on a Mission, Mark, a lot of what we do is we really get to the core of what's your mission in life. And somehow through tragedy, through the ups, the downs, the wins, the losses, that's usually where some beautiful fruit is disclosed, and we really try to tell that story to inspire our audience. So we just addressed how high you've been, which I can't even imagine what that felt like. I don't know if you want to start there and we could work our way backwards, but can you imagine, Matt, being a Super Bowl winning MVP? I was a sports kid. Are you kidding me?
That's a pinnacle of the human experience.
100%. Yeah. What a gift, man. So I don't know.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good intro. I mean,
don't worry, we're gonna go low too, man.
Wow,
we'll get to your humanity.
It's
hard to win.
The sports of high of the high. Obviously, the Super Bowl '26 was good, and I'm fortunate and blessed to have played with a group of guys that made it pretty easy. Buffalo was handing out Super Bowls, for about 4 years. They're just like saying, "Hey, you can have one. Hey, you can have a couple." And it's amazing how they didn't, going to 4 straight Super Bowls. Should have won the first one. Scott Norwood missed a field goal that would enable them to have their first Super Bowl, and then of course we kind of shredded them the year after that, and then Dallas did 2 years. But they are amazing. Jim Kelly and that whole crew was an amazing group of guys that didn't play the best when it mattered the most. And fortunately for me, I had an opportunity in '87 to be a part of a Super Bowl and kind of see the spectacle that it is.
Yeah. Oh, you had.
Yeah. I mean, I was when Doug Williams was the MVP of the '87-'88 season. It was the replacement players year, they call it the scab, players that played, and then we got to finally come back after the contract or the collective bargaining agreement was settled, to have an opportunity to play, and our guys put us in pretty good position. So we're very fortunate to have a group of replacement players that kind of put us in an opportunity to play the last 3 or 4 games of the season, get into the playoffs, and of course Doug did amazing work in the playoffs and took us to a Super Bowl. Had what they call the golden quarter, where we scored 35 points, and in the second quarter we're down 10-0 to the Broncos, and John Elway is a good friend who's out here.
That was my hero when I was a kid. I love John.
And everyone loves John. He's wonderful, and he's out in our neighborhood here. And so anyway, so it was great because I had an opportunity to sit and be in the biggest spectacle that the world covers, the Super Bowl. And I had a great seat. I wasn't the backup. I was the clipboard guy, the third string guy. And first of all, I didn't even know after the replacement guys came in if I'd even have a job. But Joe Gibbs is such a true to his word guy that he said, if you guys go out, I want you to go out together. I want you to come back in together. We were the only team in the NFL that year that all our guys stayed out for the whole strike and came back together as a team.
Oh, wow.
So
That's
he
rare.
respected that, honored that. He kept a couple guys and put some guys on injured reserve from our team. But I was one of the guys that was kind of like the third string guy. So I didn't
Yeah.
suit up for the game.
Were you
but
a rookie year in that year?
Yeah, that was my second
Yeah.
year in the league. So
Wow.
second year in the league, go to a Super Bowl.
You got to
pretty-
see it all.
I got a front row seat.
Yeah, you learned a lot.
Yeah, so I learned a lot. And not like guys today, they're thrown in the fire right away. They want to win yesterday. All these organizations
Sure.
want
Yeah.
to win yesterday. So I had this opportunity to kind of watch Doug and Jay Schrader the year before that, and kind of, gosh, and I actually questioned myself. I go, this game seems too fast.
Yeah.
I says, I don't know if I could. I could play at this level. It's too quick. And then
Amazing.
I got my opportunity the year after the Super Bowl. Doug got an appendectomy. We traded Jay to the Oakland Raiders, Jay Schrader, for
Right.
Jim Lachey, who, by the way, may be the best lockdown tackle. Would have been first ballot Hall of Famer if he would have stayed healthy. He just had too many injuries. And he played like 8 or 9 years. But he played 3 or 4 years with me, which was amazing. I just didn't have to worry ever about my blind side. And
Amazing.
so to make a long story short, I questioned myself, and then I got my chance and my opportunity. And all those things you talk about, gosh, is the game too fast? Well, for a lot of these quarterbacks that play, and get thrown in the fire right away, do they have the ability to slow the game down?
Sure.
Because a lot of times when you're antsy and you want the ball and you're getting set up, you're on your 5th step, you're throwing the ball before your receiver's even out of his route. So
Yeah.
the timing's all off and everything. And
Yeah.
so I at least had that aspect of it to understand, hey, slow the game down, let it come to you. And I wouldn't say it was easy, but I had a great first game. I had a lot of real good games, but I made a lot of bonehead plays throughout the next 3 or 4 years. But I kept doing some things that our coach and our organization thought, well, this guy's got potential. So we ended up having that year in 91, 92. That was very, very special. And the good thing about the 3
I remember
Super
those
Bowls-
years. I was a kid, but
yeah, the good thing about the 3 Super Bowls we won is that during those first 2, they were both in work stoppage years. So there was a strike year that John Riggins was the MVP in like 82. That was a work stoppage year. And then there was the replacement team in 87, 88. It was another work. So we had never won a Super Bowl in a straight 16-game schedule. Back then it was 16, now it's 17. And so that was the amazing thing about that group and that team. And Joe Gibbs' legacy is the greatest coach. I mean, he's the greatest people.
He was a great coach.
He's the greatest people, too.
Oh, that's
he is
amazing.
one of the nicest. And you talk about highs and highs and lows and lows. He's reached it in football. He's reached it in NASCAR racing.
Sure.
He's also reached the lows and lows.
Yeah,
He's lost
right.
both his sons.
Really?
Can't even imagine.
One, JD, about 6-7 years ago. JD, his son, was lost, and they didn't know for the longest time. They thought he might have had some neurological issues, maybe a brain tumor or something like that, and just found they had early onset Alzheimer's.
Oh, no.
And was in
Heartbreaking.
and
Heartbreaking.
sadly passed away at
Two sons.
age 49. And then Coeur kind of took over the race team after that. Last November of this past year, his son just won which was the league below. It used to be called Busch Grand National or the Busch Series, whatever. It was a league below the NASCAR, the Winston Cup. And he just won that second series championship in Arizona. He went to bed. Coy went to bed that night. Didn't wake up the next day. So I mean,
Unreal. Life's
you talk
precious.
about about one of the greatest people. Very spiritual guy. Whole family, his boys, everything was to lose 2 sons within a 5-6 year window is just tragic. So.
One thing I noticed every time we do these interviews of people that have achieved greatness, I can't tell you how often, like, the first place they go is crediting other people for their success.
Yeah.
Being able to be impacted by other people. And that's really all we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
Talking about leadership is something we always get there, because the people that leave the biggest marks in life, they become great leaders. And that usually flows from having great people that you've been around. Yeah. But you're being a quarterback of a Super Bowl winning team. I mean, that's the ultimate model of what leadership actually looks like at the highest levels. This is every little boy's dream in America. I mean, this is it right here. You talked a lot about slowing the game down, which is amazing, because so many of the best leaders I come in contact with, their ability to remain calm in the storm is something that I see over and over and over again. There's a lot of lessons here for people to try to advance their positions in life. Well, really mimic what the best in class are doing, but it doesn't mean there's not heartache. It doesn't mean there's not tragedy.
Or insecurity.
It doesn't mean there's not fear. This is the thing I keep stumbling across. I coach with Ed Milet. He's someone that I brought in as a coach. And, he's the number one speaker in the world. Literally, USA Today just ranked him as the number one performance coach in the whole world.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I quickly learned from Ed is I started committing to him and, really spending money on this stuff, trying to absorb everything I can from a guy and really looking for real mentorship since I'm stepping on the light. But one of the first things I noticed was he's just as afraid as I am. He wasn't born this way.
Right.
He had to work and put systems and processes in place to keep showing up and really had to work at his craft. So many people give up so easily and they never embed some of these systems that get you to win in life.
Yeah.
But it's cool to be talking to you, kind of diving back in. How do you lead? Like, maybe we sit with leadership for a hot second since we tapped into it.
Yeah.
But, I don't know what round you were drafted in, what you
Well,
went.
I mean, two greatest quarterbacks in NFL history.
Exactly.
Tom Brady and I were drafted in the 6th round.
That's the point.
That's where the ties end, right there.
That's
We were both
awesome.
drafted in the
It's
6th
amazing.
round.
Yeah.
But no, I think you hit the nail on the head. And I think the one thing though you got to understand is that you do, because the ones that really delegate, or say, hey, this is a group.
Yeah,
collectively. Right. Individually, I had to play the best when it mattered the most. There's no doubt about that.
Pressure.
Individually wise, I had to play well in order for our success to be up. But collectively as a group, we all had to also play together.
Sure.
And that just stems from the fact you're comfortable knowing that you don't have to do. I remember the first snap of the game, I got hit. 2 of the first 3 plays were quick 3-step drops, and I got hit on 2 of the first 3. One, I cracked a rib early in the game. Early in the Super Bowl.
Wow.
And, of course, I did adrenaline, you don't know
Sure.
it. But I remember flying from the next morning from after the Super Bowl media stuff to the Pro Bowl, which back then was a game.
Yeah, right.
The Pro Bowl was a game, and it was played. I remember flying on the plane about halfway through the plane after, kind of all the festivals and the fun of the night.
Maui.
Wear down and adrenaline, everything like that. I'm going, oh, my gosh.
Damn.
I can't move.
So I went to the hospital, and sure enough, I had a cracked rib.
Wow.
And I played the Pro Bowl with that, but it was kind of like
That's what Warriors do, baby.
So you
Keep showing up.
you're honored and to be a part of that. And shoot, I had Michael Irvin, I had Gary Clark, I had Art Monk. I had 2 of my guys along with Jerry Rice and Michael Irvin. I mean,
all great stories.
I think Michael was an MVP, but I played a good game in the Pro Bowl too. So it was fun, but it was an honor to be a part of that group, because it was such an honor to look back and look back at my 84 Cougs team, my 85 Cougs team, the pictures, and the personalities and the people.
Yeah.
And
you must
those
have such
are
a warmth for that.
I remember. I actually remember you when I was a kid. I was such a sports fanatic. I was a John Elway fanatic. It's cool to have met my hero several times now and been near him many times. But I remember that there was a lot of momentum around you. I just remember that. How important is momentum?
Oh, totally.
And doubling down when you have it.
Totally. I mean, we start out winning our first 11.
It's contagious.
Yeah.
It's
And
crazy.
we're 11-0. And then I remember Tony Kornheiser from Pardon the Interruption,
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
PT's still on.
Yeah,
PTI,
yeah,
him
he
and
is,
Michael Wilbon do that Pardon the Interruption. And anyways, he was also writing for the Washington Post. And he started writing about 3 games in. Hey, he had this big boat. Jump on the bandwagon, big bandwagon. It was like a thing going down the street. Who's jumping? So he's the first one on. The next thing you know, he's got all of these political people and people of influence in Washington D.C. are jumping on this bandwagon. And 11 games in, this bandwagon and the article is getting huge because it's picking up momentum. So then we played Dallas at home. You talk about a little piece of humble pie.
There you go.
You're 11-0, but it also redirected us. Hey, we're not as good as we think we are. Yeah. We don't play at 11
You need
like
that
this all the time. Sometimes you have to refocus, and it got us refocused. And we went on to win. And we go 14-1 going into the last game of the season against the Eagles. We're up 14-10 at half, and Joe Gibbs doesn't like pulling guys out of the game, but he also knows, hey, we're playing in Philly. How they get, first of all, that field in itself is a danger. Never mind Reggie White, and Seth Joyner.
Reggie.
Yeah,
damn.
Reggie,
That guy was a monster. Oh, my God.
Andre Dirty Waters. I mean,
Remember Andre Waters?
All these, they were ball players. They were ballers, these guys. So he decided to pull us off, which, he'd never done. So we ended up losing that game by 3. So we end up going 14-2 during the year.
You needed that though.
Totally. We run the tables. Yeah, you don't want to get a freak injury. I mean, there's a guy. Speaking of injuries, there's a guy about 3 years later caught an unabated touchdown pass in the corner of the end zone in Philadelphia, tore both his Achilles tendons, or both his ACLs.
Yeah.
Without being touched?
Yeah, without being touched. The turf for the baseball field, it's a baseball field. They just put artificial grass over it, but it's seems about that much
it's dangerous.
difference. Yeah. And he caught it at the right time and snapped both his ACLs.
It's crazy.
I want to swing back. It's cool to hear that here you were at the Super Bowl. This game is so fast. Can I do this? And like how, the human development, all this coaching content. That
Best in class. We talk a lot about that.
The world's flooded with this in social media.
Sure.
But back then, like, what was your own?
Yeah.
How did you have like a mentor, a North Star kind of attitude of practice? How did you get your mind and heart straight and keep? What was your own kind of private inner life like? You know what I mean? Like
everybody laughs, not laughs about it, makes comments about it all the time when we look back. Because I was put on injury reserve. Usually you go on injury reserve because you're injured.
Sure.
Joe Gibbs wanted to, but you couldn't do it then. You couldn't keep players. You couldn't put them on the practice squad. We didn't have that. So in order to be on the injured reserve, some injury happened. Yeah. So I remember in a game against a preseason game, Joe says, "Hey, if you get to the sideline, scramble the sidelines. If you go down, stay down." Yeah. And I remember going down, getting back up. Bubba Tired goes, "Get down!" Our trainer. So I get back down. And I developed a back injury.
Yeah.
So anyhow, during all that, you're on injury reserve, so you're not eligible to play that season. But they want you around to learn the system, be part of the system, come to all the meetings.
Yeah.
And then Jerry Rome was my quarterback coach, and they remember this day him putting the wide receiver gloves on, and him and I going over and playing, situational stuff.
Yeah.
With 2-minute drill, him catching passes, us going down the field, throwing 3-step hitch routes, throwing 5-step comeback. He wouldn't run the whole route. Yeah. He'd run the finish of the routes,
Yeah.
He would do that. So he was a big part, Jerry Rome was, of just the understanding, the principles.
That's cool.
Now, that was against air, and you're not defenses, but it gives you, cover 2. He goes, cover 2. Now I'm going down the sidelines. You got 2 receivers going down the sidelines. You got to read that safety to the middle guy and throw down the sidelines. And so it was just things that he did that enabled me to I got a visual.
It's clear how it's clear just listening how impactful he was. Obviously,
incredible.
Yeah.
And that to this day, he was one of the biggest reasons.
Blows my mind.
Doug Williams even says, and all these guys, they laugh. They go, "We just." And I saw Darryl Green about a month ago at a tournament down in golf tournament down in Orlando. He goes, "I just still remember you and Jerry Rome in that other field,
just over just working
and that's
stuff.
The offense was doing their stuff." So
that's cool. It's really cool.
Excuse me. And the special teams work. That's when I do it to make we took a lot of pride in our special teams. Speaking of special teams, our coach Wayne Sevier, who passed away about probably 15 years ago, coached at Mullen High School or Wallace High School.
Wow.
Here in the area here. Was head coach at
in
Wallace
Idaho.
High School.
Yeah.
Yep. And then ended up coaching and then got with Joe Gibbs and was arguably one of the greatest special teams coaches around. And funny guy, golfer, and we had a lot of great times together. We'd played a lot of golf and make these small bets, on flat pulleys, up and downs, and this. He'd shoot 102 and I'd shoot like a 75. But he'd make 4 and we wouldn't go on score.
Yeah,
and he'd make 4 or 5 sandies and pulleys and he'd win $3 at the end. And he asked me, "Hey, could you, write in a check?" And then he'd stick the check on the bulletin board. He goes, "I kicked Rip's ass in golf."
The 75 golfer, I won.
I beat him by 22 strokes, but he won the money.
That's
so
funny.
It goes, "It doesn't matter. It's all about perspective."
You get such a good sense of a person when you just get near them. You listen to how they tell stories. Things are important to them, and we're always trying to give as much value to this audience as possible.
Sure.
One of the big questions is really looking at the best in class. Like, how do they operate? What is the difference maker? Is it obsession? Is it passion? Is it talent? Or does talent really have nothing to do with it? More and more, I feel like it's really way more than talent. Talent can get you maybe far, but you get near some of the spirit and the energy of a person. All the small things when no one's looking, but everyone wants their dreams to come true. Everyone's got something that they're dying to do.
Everyone feels like the game of life's too fast.
Yeah, but do you need to be obsessed? Like, when you get beneath the surface of someone that wins big in life, these guys just win. This is a winner. Is it from the child? Is it pain from your childhood that gets you? I have a good friend, Tim Grover. He calls it darkness. My other friend, Ben Newman. These are big sports figures in today's world of college athletes. And he was Michael Jordan, Tim Grover's guy. Yeah. But they talk about pain and darkness a lot, like something that keeps them fighting and in the burn and the heat longer than the next guy who bows out so quickly. what is it when you get near the best in class that they tapped into that has way more validity than just talent? Because I think a lot of people write off as like, oh, he was born that way, he was good. I don't think that has anything to do with it. The more I get near people like Mark, did you see that, Matt?
You were even you come from humble beginnings.
Yeah.
Talking to your daughter, she
I would have to say though, I mean, you look at a Tom Brady,
Right.
Right. He's not going to win any vertical jumps and
Sure.
40-yard dashes,
Exactly
any strength contests. No. I will say in his latter part of his career, he has made a great transition from health and wellness to when we first came into the league. Now I'll give you a great story about that in a second, but just talk about Tom. He came from basically a guy that loved to play the position, played it well in college, he wasn't like going to be a Heisman Trophy winner. No. Got drafted in the sixth round, worked at it, said, I'm going to get behind a guy, a Washington State guy in New England, Drew Bledsoe, and I'm going to learn as much as I can and be ready when my number's called. And that's what you have to do. And I can say it's hard today because your number's called out of college. Your number's called, they're wanting you to win. Now, Tom had an opportunity to look at what the Patriots were doing, what Drew was doing, kind of see his perspective of things, and went out and did it. But then there's other guys. There's guys that you have unbelievable freak talents, like Lamar Jackson. I have none of those skills. But maybe vision and anticipation and the throwing part aspects. But he's such a great athlete. He does so many great things. Patrick Mahomes does things we all just marvel at.
I know, it's wild. Yeah.
Ambidextrous.
How does he do it? I mean, he's looking this way and throwing that way. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even think of doing that. But guys are doing that now in practice. To try to and they're practicing that. We never practice that. Yeah. We never practice a back shoulder throw. That was never.
It was not
our thing. Was our guys had to stem, run their route, keep the sidelines about a 3-yard sideline where you drop the ball.
You're throwing a dime.
Yeah. So you're putting it over the top. You're not putting a back shoulder. You're putting it where we catch it or no one catches it. You're not putting it up there where two guys are going for it. Yeah. The best athlete, usually receivers, because you're a DB because you probably can't catch it a lot of the times. Except that I shouldn't say that. There's some real good DBs out there that catch quite a bit. The guy in Dallas is doing a heck of a job. But so anyways, there's just that aspect of it. Then there's the component now that they have that we didn't have back then. We had an owner, Jack Kent Cook, great owner. We traveled only on United Airlines. We stayed in only Marriott hotels, and we had, and think of this being your strength coach and your head trainer, knowing that every single day our owner had a deal with McDonald's, and we had every day, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday practice. Double quarter pounders with cheese, French fries, and apple pies. So soggy French fries with apple pies. They'd bring them in big boxes. Now, the O-line loved them. They could have a couple of them, they're ready to go. I mean, a lot of guys started bringing their own lunch, and so anyways, and then Friday we'd have the Alpine restaurant, which is an Italian restaurant. We'd come out and cater us on Fridays. Funny. That was our treat. Nowadays, they have these red, yellow, and green signs on your food. Red, be cautious, once in a while. Yellow, it's okay, but green, eat as much of it as you want. So that's where
it's a different world.
The whole, and you could have lunch or breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the facility. Back you worked, what you stayed, you had a soda to keep you awake. You watched film after practice, stayed there longer, and then didn't have all these perks that they have today. And I think there's a quote that. The great Lou Holt said about today's athlete versus the athlete yesterday. It's one responsibilities and this today privilege, and the athlete today is privilege and something. But it's
look at us.
Now it just ruined it because you got to look at it.
Brady had a reel on that I caught where he was saying it's different. His opinion now, it's the athletes aren't as, and I'm not going to disparage athletes, but like. It's different. They're not as tough or grinding.
Well, there's one thing there that they look at, and it's instead of you come there as a group, now you're a business within a business.
Sure, you 100%.
And I don't blame the athlete.
There's big money now.
It's just money and
guys are so expensive.
The injury, and now all of a sudden, late in the season, guys are like, well, I don't want to play because I've had a pretty good year. People know what I can do. I don't want to get myself hurt because I know I'm going to probably get traded.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, you know.
It's a man.
What about the fame aspect of it? How does that play a role in players? I know it's different even then today, but still, you guys are worshipped like gods.
Yeah, I think the one thing I look back and I'm thankful, but also missed some opportunity is the Super Bowl. I had the best agent. He was a Missoula, Montana guy. Ken Staninger was his name, and probably one of the. I don't know if you knew him when he was there, but he was just a great. I had him vetted. Jim Walden had a bunch of guys vetted. And out of the vetted guys, he was a guy that met what I wanted. I mean, he took me fly fishing on the Clark Fork.
Wonderful.
I don't think we ever got our rods up. We had a few cold pops, and floated down the river and had a great time.
Good Montana.
And I knew that's the kind of guy I like. That's the kind of guy I get along with. And he was basically contract negotiations, and that aspect of it. He said, if you want to do your taxes and you want to do investing and this, that, and the other, I'll give you some people that I would recommend. But, and I'll also, if you got some people, I'll vet them, make sure they're okay. Which is great, instead of having one guy say, I'm going to do everything for you, a group, I'm going to do everything for you. The one thing I do wish that he did a little bit more is after the Super Bowl marketing, doing some marketing things. I have a face for radio, so maybe that's the reason why he didn't market,
I disagree.
But anyways, it was like
leveraging the
leveraging that opportunity to make some money. Guys, when you win a Super Bowl today, I mean, that's
big
you can
time.
just open up a check and someone's going to write
It's
you.
different now.
It's a different.
Yeah, different.
It is.
But am I bummed about it? Yeah, there's missed opportunity, but I also didn't have to worry about traveling every week to go, away from the family and the kids and all that. So it was a blessing in disguise, I should say.
Yeah.
Even though
Well, Mark's humble. He's a humble guy,
Yeah,
honestly. We got a lot of mutual friends, and there's always like a bright light around Mark. You know what I mean? For years, I felt it, even from afar, knowing who he was, being in proximity to him, even though I didn't know. But it's cool to see how humble you are, Mark. I admire
Libra,
this.
I think Libra's
Is that it?
down
It's a
to
Libra?
earth. Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
I have a question.
But wait, my daughter Angela's Libra too, so maybe just kidding.
and his daughter is spectacular.
Oh, she's the best.
She's a winner for sure.
I had a kind of curiosity, so at 61, here you were at the pinnacle of accomplishment, and I heard this distinction once, which is accomplishment is one thing, and it demands so much, and then even more challenging is to live like a meaningful life through all the phases. Yeah, and I'm just getting to meet you in person. It's such a privilege, like having stood on that pinnacle. Like what's important to you today? Like how. What's meaningful to you today as a man, 61? Because your body, you're just not going to do that again.
Oh, physically. What's important to me is sports-wise, my golf game, because it gives me an opportunity and a chance to compete. It's something that you
competitive for
miss,
life.
Yeah, totally for
and
life.
You can do it, and whether it's a hot dog bet with my granddaughter or something like that.
Michael Jordan's betting all the time.
Oh yeah,
he turns everything into a game.
2 months ago down in this course, the Grove 23.
Yeah.
And I played Michael probably 6 or 7 different times in Lake Tahoe when he played that event.
Yeah,
celebrity golf tournament.
I loved it there
that was
because one of the things that was great about Michael is everyone didn't like it because after he hits, people are walking and there's a lot of commotion. I go, who cares? You're playing with Michael Jordan, for God's sakes. And the other thing is around the green, there's so many people. If you hit what I call a Vin Scully, you don't hit it flush and it goes fast. You got people to keep it
tap it into the rough.
not going into deep rough, So
I love that tournament.
Oh, that's a great.
I got his signature from Jordan from when I was there. It was a rare opportunity. I was close enough to him, but he was in all pink, head to toe, pink hat, pink shirt, pink
He
shoes.
dressed so sharp.
And that same tournament, celebrity golf tournament, Lake Tahoe, Bo Jackson, the guy right next to me, he threw his club because he played like shit. And he took his whole bag and he gave it to the little kid that was sitting next to me.
No way.
Right on the 18th hole.
What a
Yeah.
cool
It was
thing.
but these are some of my greatest memories he's talking about.
I did that once at a thing here. But anyway, back to the kids. I was playing the Bank of America, had the quarterback shootout here like 30 years ago. And I was putting so bad. I wanted to take my putter and just hurl it into to Lake Coeur d'Alene. And I saw a kid there, and I'm going, this kid probably could use it better. I gave it to him. And I putted the rest of the day with my driver and putted better than I should.
Did you really? Oh, that's awesome.
It was good. It was like I had to focus more. And it was So anyways, back to and my kids, my kids and grandkids now. I mean, it's a great part about being a grandparent is you got a second lease on life. You got to look at maybe there's some of your shortcomings, as a dad and a mom or whatever.
Yeah.
And as parents, you get an opportunity now to resurrect that and to
Yeah.
be there for your kids and also for your grandkids.
That's cool, man.
And
what a gift.
to enjoy them, I think, is so important.
Ultra
And,
meaningful.
yeah, and both my kids are doing it. Anne's is doing an amazing job raising her too.
She's a stud.
Just her and the two, and that's her life.
Yeah.
And to see that and the importance that it means, and to understand that is pretty cool
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
itself, and then to be able to pitch in and help where I can, and know that it's very appreciated, on her behalf. The kids love it, playing golf with Malaya and Mackay. We just played in the simulator the other day, all four of us, and just had a ball. And it's I think that those the golf and that are kind of what I look forward to.
Yeah.
I really look forward to going out and visiting them and watching Malaya play. Her she was her 8th grade last year in junior high, and then she was at high school, and right now she's looking to go into Bishop Moore, which is a school in Orlando, and play volleyball. And I want to have her continue golf. Whether she doesn't play in the golf team or not, I think it's just something great having.
Play with grandpa.
Play with grandpa
At the
for
very
sure.
least.
I love that I love that out of the
And
gate.
she's 6 foot tall. I mean, she's got a Nelly.
These are
Cordes.
athletes.
I
These
just
are.
met her.
This is an
She's got a
athletic
Nelly
family.
Cordes. Yeah.
She's just built to be an athlete.
Oh, and she's got a Nelly Cordes swing too. It's the most beautiful thing you've ever
Really?
seen. And
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It bums me because I am literally got the ugliest golf swing, but I score.
Yeah.
You're
I'm a
competitive.
That's all
I
it
love
scratch
that you're
player, and I get the ball.
He's a
in the
scratch
hole.
player.
I love your
I've known
first,
that about
your
him.
first answer is just to. There's a lot to glean from that, to always have a competitive something that
Yeah.
you can keep
Totally.
competing in.
Well, it's just a reality of when you get in your like real winners in life. It's
They're
part of the
competitive.
DNA,
It's part of
baby.
the
That's what
spirit,
it is.
and they have fun at it.
Yeah, I play with my sweetheart cribbage. We play on, with our phones.
Yeah.
And it's competitive.
That's
It's
what we
great.
do. This is
And I
it.
hate losing to her.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
On the
It's-
There's
on
something
the,
to that.
On the children's side, I talking to your daughter, I wanted to ask you on Man on a Mission. One of our things, Mark, is to. There's a saying that I just love. Once I heard it, like you can only go as high as you've been low. And you lost a son.
Yeah.
I'd love to. I have 4 young boys. Like, if you could tell us about what was that like, and how do you, as a grandfather, looking back on that, how'd you get through that?
Yeah.
Well, I think first of all, Mackay, kind of reminds me of Andrew.
Who's your 5-year-old
grandson?
My 5-year-old grandson.
Mackay, yeah.
And he kind of reminded me what Andrew would have, as
Yeah.
Andrew's growing, what he would have been like. Because
Yeah.
Andrew was amazing.
Oh, that's amazing.
He's diagnosed. I'm sitting there. I'm playing with the Rams. He just had his 2nd birthday, and so I'm in training camp in Macomb, Illinois, is
Yeah.
where the Rams, and Dick Vermeil was our coach then.
Dick Vermeil.
Dick is one of the best people I know, and so he called me in the office and said, "Hey, I just want to let you know there's been an emergency. Everything's okay. No one's in." But your son had a seizure, and he's been flown to a hospital, but in Spokane, and we'd appreciate, your wife would appreciate, that this, and you come home now, and you just take as much time. So Dick was great. Dick is like, get out of here. You go and take care of family. You'll have a spot when you come back. Tony Banks is our starter, and I was going to be the backup. He goes, "You'll have a spot when you come back. You just take care of family." So we go out there, and of course, it's not what you want to see. When your son's got tubes coming out his nose and mouth and everything, and and the seizures are scary. You don't know what at that time causes them. What is he going to have to be on phenobarb for the rest of his life? And if that would have been the case, that would have been great. But essentially something's wrong. That's why you have a seizure. So we took X-rays, and they found a mass. They said, "We found a mass, and it's in his left frontal lobe, and we don't know what it is yet." So Dr. John DeMakis, who's Andrew's, and Dr. Jeff Larson, Jeff is here in town.
I know
here.
Jeff. Yeah.
Wonderful guy.
He's a good
Both
guy.
are great
Yeah,
people.
they are.
Jeff's a funny guy. Heck, 6'7", playing hockey against him is like playing against Zdeno Chara. He's on skates. He's
Big,
6'12",
Crazy.
or 7 foot, I guess.
Yeah,
I always say that to my kids.
6'12".
Judgy's 5'12". You're 5'12". What is that? No, 6 foot. So, anyhow, he, both those guys were just instrumental, in Andrew's care, and appreciative to have our specialty people that we have here in Spokane at the Heart Institute, here locally in Coeur d'Alene, and all the wonderful things that these first responders and people our doctors and nurses do here.
Yeah, they're heroes, all of them.
So, anyways, so Dr. Demakis said, we'll take a biopsy and we'll let you know in a week or so, because I got to wait for the biopsy to come back. So, a week goes by, and Andrew's, after he's had the phenobarb and everything, he's playing like any other 2-year-old. He's just so active and crazy and running around, this, that, and the other. And then we come back, and Annette and I did, my wife at the time, for the diagnosis, and the doc says, well, I hate to say it, but to tell you that we've got a task ahead of us. The biopsy came back, and it's a tumor. It's a cancerous tumor. It's called a PNET, which is a primitive neuroectodermal tumor. It's in the frontal lobe. We're going to treat it, and we're going to hope to, get it out in some way, shape, or form. But we got a task ahead of us. So then at that process, you kind of like, okay, well, what's our next plan?
Next
you
step,
look at the. So I remember we go in the car, and we both just kind of start sobbing, like, how does this happen? To someone that's so healthy and active as Andrew. And then so we decided with Dr. Judy Felgenhauer, and Dr. Who was the other guy? Oh, they're both a deaconess at the time, because we didn't actually have a children's hospital. He's a great guy.
I'm touched you remember all these names, because it shows how much your heart cared about their care.
Yeah, well,
Like,
it's the care, their aftercare, and you don't forget those people.
Yeah, you'll never
forget those. So Dr. Judy was the one. So we're talking about to Dr. Judy and what we want to do. And she said, well, because at the time Deaconess was doing the children's cancer and adult cancer and along with whole Sacred Heart, but we didn't have a children's hospital. So they felt the best thing to do was to go to St. Louis, back to St. Louis, where the kids are in school, and live as normal a life as you possibly can under these pretenses, knowing that Andrew's going to be taken care of at a Barnes Jewish hospital in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And being around other kids is kind of what they want to be anyway, and everyone there knows that something's wrong, but they're around other kids. They don't know the extent of what they have to do. So Andrew went through the treatment. He's first round of chemo. Kids are so resilient. They're amazing. So they get their chemo. After the chemo, their blood counts, in order to go back home, their blood counts have to come back to be let out of the hospital. Yeah. So his blood counts came back within 2 days. So he was back home, and there's, we clean his heparin. He had a Broviac here, so he cleaned his heparin and rinse it and clean it and put saline in it and any medication that he might need during that time. So we did that at home. Yeah. Annette and I did, but he could be around the kids. And his second treatment was going to follow, like, after about a week, did his second and third treatment. So at the end of the 3 treatments, he was done, and the kids Annette and the kids headed back home, and I had, I think, a game left before the New Year, so we had Christmas in St. Louis. They went home. I spent the last game of New Year's there, and then went back, and then we were going to see what this treatment had done. So then you kind of just wait and see what has happened, and did it shrink the tumor, and they go in there and they said, well, here's what happened. It did shrink the tumor. It's still there. But we have another procedure we're going to do, and that's extract the tumor, same tumor, out of that tumor bed and plant radiation seeds. Now, the reason this is key is because kids are 2 years old, 2.5, their brain's growing. If you radiate the whole brain, then they become a vegetable. So there's really no... do you want to live? Do you want to? Do you want to? Try to zap it, or do you want target it specifically? So these radiation seeds had like 69 days where they stay, and then they lose their potency, and then they're done. So Doc says, we think this was a new procedure at the time. They're doing in different parts of your body, spines and things like that they couldn't get at. So they ended up doing that, and then, it seemed like for the next 3 or 4 months, he was just amazing. He's back to doing the things.
You're getting hopeful again.
Yeah, so we're getting hopeful, because we're not having to go back.
He wasn't hurting or sick.
No, he wasn't doing this. This is like the 1st of January or middle of January all the way to February, March, April, all the way April. Yeah. And then they came back in. Well, they've run their course and looked at the MRI, and everything looked great. Huh. So you head home and you're thinking, this is wonderful.
Yeah.
So June or May, and then June comes, and about the end of June, he, we're just like I say, those days were pretty simple. He had another seizure, and so now you're like going, this is not good. So you go back in, and sure enough, we come back. The radiologist who I knew played basketball against, he looked at it. He says, Mark, I don't read these. The doc reads them, but I don't know what to say.
Oh no,
he was honest with you.
Yeah, he's being honest, and so I said, well, I appreciate that. You go back, and he says, yeah, the tumors come back probably twice its original size, and it's up to you what you want to do. We can try, which I don't think is anything, or you just kind of
love him,
love him as much as you can during his time that he's left here, and go from there. Enjoy him as much as you can. And so we had family members for the next month and a half, and he passed away. I can't even go over the day he passed away because it was kind of crazy. For the next month and a half, he slept between Annette and I in the bed. Because we wanted to make sure that he was okay. We didn't want to have to monitor him, and so he was. For the first 2 weeks, he was good. Then he got some what they call Bell's palsy, and just kind of a droopy lip, and just not physically. Actually, still doing things physically that you're thinking, how does this happen? A 2-year-old who's been with 3. So on October 22nd, he passed and peacefully. In his sleep, because that was the other thing you worry about.
What a blessing!
Is he going to have a traumatic experience in front of his sisters and the family that kind of leaves you scarred, or is he going to go peacefully? And Lord, if you believe in a higher source, a heavenly Father above, I mean that's the way you pray for, and that's the way you pass. So it's
I had no idea you got to you knowingly were with him in those.
Oh yeah, the last breath. In fact, the dog went out, and our dog never. Gabby was our golden retriever. Our dog never wants to go out, but they knew something was up. So I took him out, and I came back, and that says he's gone. I go, I know. I took him out to the bathroom. He goes, no, Andrew's gone. And that's where he found out. And so it was kind of something you don't wish on your worst enemy. And then you also look at, hey, this is a blessing in a very, very small way that he passed the way he did, and dignity and dignity intact, and not having something that is going to horrify us all.
Suffering,
So sorry, Mark.
Yeah. Well, that's life, and that's where you go through the highs and the lows, and then now what do? You got to pick up the pieces,
Yeah, and you're in a busy season of life at that time.
Yeah, and so I actually had signed a contract that after the St. Rams with the Atlanta Falcons, and I went back there for a couple visits, and because after we got the MRI saying the radiation seeds have worked and everything else, that everything is going to be good. I started traveling back like once a week. Dan Reeves was the coach, and Dan was great, and the whole organization was awesome. They went to the Super Bowl that year.
Wow. Yeah.
And then he had his seizure, and then
that's
I said, hey, football could take a back seat. So then I took, I kind of semi-retired at the time, and then I got called back 3 years later to be kind of a mentor not a mentor, but just kind of be another person for Peyton Manning, because I loved.
You did? I didn't know this.
Yeah, 2001.
What's that story? You were with them for a season?
Yeah, for 1 year. Bill Poland, who was a Buffalo Bills GM at the time of those Super Bowls, he called my agent and said, hey, is your guy in any shape? Does he want to come? We're not happy with our backup situation. I hadn't played football in 3 years. And Kenny calls me up and he goes, hey, you want to go play football? I go, who wants me? Well, they want you to work out. They don't want you, but they're wondering. So I go, sure. I mean, I was in good shape. At that time, I stayed in pretty good shape, and it was probably the stress of everything, 3 years. And it was actually kind of good because it was a dark time, just got through it. A lot of times you keep your relationships with your significant other, but death in families,
it's major.
It's like 90%. So it's tough and it's difficult, and so we ended our relationship, and so I was in a dark place, and so I felt this would be pretty cool.
Waking up.
This is kind of like it gives me something. So I'll go out there and throw. It's their decision. So I remember after I got off the phone, Ken says you might want to go throw some balls. I remember going out and a buddy of mine.
You're like, let's go to the park.
Yeah, John Hemingson's a good friend, and he built the Hemingson Center at Gonzaga.
Yeah.
And just a wonderful, wonderful human being.
Good people.
Yeah.
And his, my kids used to go down and swim because we lived on this, not far from where on Shoreline Drive there.
Yeah.
And then we go down and swim at his house, because he had a warm pool and
Yeah.
early on,
I know,
and
yeah.
so he
Good
was
man.
just so gracious to them. And so he had some business partners, a buddy of his that was in town, and I said, hey, you want to come out and catch some balls? And so the guy ran routes, and I was throwing routes, and I was, of course, my arm was live then. I hadn't thrown in 3 years, and I'm thinking, oh God, this might not be a good idea because I'm going to go there and it's probably going to be dead. I went there, and I swear, Huffnagel was their quarterback coach, and I went out there, and Jim Mora was the head coach at the time. Playoffs, remember that? Playoffs.
Yeah.
You can't win playoffs. You talk about playoffs.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so I threw, and oh my gosh, I was like at the end, I'm like delighted,
Yeah.
And it's funny because here's a situation where this is my 30th or 20th class reunions coming up on Friday. I go out there, I fly out on Tuesday, work out on Wednesday. He said, we'll at the time he said we'll send you back home, and then we'll call you out because we're going down to Tennessee to scrimmage them this week. And I go, okay. So then this is before I threw, and then I threw. And then I remember just sitting after getting in the shower, and I had a smile on my face because I go, God,
So got it.
I kind of nailed that.
That's a good feeling.
It's
a good feeling.
So I'm sitting there. Bill Polian comes up. He goes, man, well, you want to get her done? I go, sure, that'd be great. I look forward to it being. Well, okay, good. We'll come get your we'll call for your stuff later. We want you to come down, fly down
That's
to
awesome.
Tennessee tomorrow with us, and we're gonna scrimmage them for a couple days, and then we'll fly back. And you can fly. Actually, when we fly back, you can fly back and get your stuff and get a place here. We'll get you an apartment here. And I go, this week?
I kind of had plans.
Wait, I got a 20. No, I didn't say anything.
Yeah, of course.
And so they got the deal done.
What a fun recharge.
Oh,
Was that a good re-energizing season of life?
It was wonderful, because the girls came out 2 or 3 different times. Anza got to meet Edger and James. She loved Edger and James. Edger's great. And of course, Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison, senior.
That was a good class.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, they were so good. And that was a good team. We didn't make the playoffs, which we probably should have. We lost some real close games. And we couldn't beat the Patriots, which was kind of our downfalls. Like I played in Cleveland one year. We couldn't beat the Steelers either.
Yeah.
Vinny was the quarterback, and he just struggled with the Steelers. So anyways, that year was good, and it was kind of a nice little recharge and just to get back, because I was in a dark place. No excuses, but I didn't want to do anything.
No,
Yeah,
can't imagine.
And the things I was doing wasn't great. And,
You're only
I don't even think I played much golf. It was just kind of.
No, to lose a little boy of yours that's got to be one of the hardest things in the world. There's a lot of people out there that are going through loss and tragedy right now. There's a ton of people that are in dark places right now. Yep. It sucks. We all have bad news coming. I think about that all the time.
Yeah,
Like
it's
all
how
of
it's
us.
it's what you
None
do
of
with
us
it,
are,
and the great thing is you can do something with it that honors Andrew.
Yeah, right.
know,
That's where I want to lead to. Yeah.
And so I'll lead you to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
Yeah.
So
How do you
after
overcome tragedy?
after that season, and it was like 2000. Buddy of mine came up there. I played hockey with, and a good friend Randy Bronner, and he said, "Hey, would you be interested in doing having your own foundation?" He goes, I can help you with it. I don't know. Because then I was kind of like feeling good. I want to get back to golf.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, we'll do it. As long as you'll do everything. Well, you start doing it, and I'm thinking I'm not going to hardly do anything. Then you get involved.
Then you're impacting.
Then you're
that's
engaged,
awesome. Yeah.
And so as you're engaged, I'm like going to myself thinking, yeah, this is good. This is great. We can just start out of a shoebox, which we did. And then another buddy of ours we played hockey with, my good friend in high school, wide receiver, played at All-American at Whitworth. Steve Rector, who's the CEO of Cole's Publishing, in town, and does all the Stacy Cole's, all their investing, and just a great person. They gave us an office space. The Cole's family did. You talk about wonderful people.
Amazing.
They gave us an opportunity to, get this thing going, and then you got board members that, every one of them I can remember to this day. I just went to to Tammy Erickson, who just
Yeah.
from Moss Adams, who just retired here this year, and how great they were and doing things all pro bono, Lower Lawton with Lawton Printing, giving all our printing, Clute Hosmer doing all our our design work pro bono. I mean, all these people just yes. What can we do? What can we do? So we started out with the Andrew or the Rypien Foundation, and then we switched it to the Andrew Rypien Foundation because 20 years from now they're not going. Well, I think it was Mark Rypien Foundation first, and then we went to the Rypien Foundation. I think we just ended up going to the Andrew Rypien Foundation at the end to honor him and the work at the hospital. But one thing we wanted to do is make the quality of care for the child palatable and the family. That's there with the child, and you do things like you have partners. And that's what we want to do, partner. So our winemakers dinner, we partnered with 20 wineries down in Walla Walla, where we bought all the wines, and partnered with them, and then all the wines we sold to our winemakers dinner. At the end, we got some money from that. But it's partnering them. We partnered with 4 dentists or orthodontists in town. We bought all the hard costs for the thing, and they provided dental care for the aftercare for the child.
That's awesome.
We funded the music therapy position, the art therapy position at Sacred Heart Hospitals, give kids a chance to get out of their rooms and do something fun. We funded patient advocate, child life specialist position at the hospital to try to alleviate some of the monetary stress that the hospital is going through. And then we did the one big thing is we built the new emergency center there, the Children's Emergency Center.
Sure.
So we were the lead donor for that one. And then the final project we did was the Andrew Rypien School, which is still running today at the hospital, which keeps kids
It's amazing.
up with their studies.
Mark, that's great.
The kids that come in for treatment, whether it's not just cancer, they fall back. They're there for 2-3 months. And then they not only get ostracized for having cancer, whatever their disease is, but they also, because they don't graduate with their peers, that they get.
Oh, that's unfair.
Kids are mean,
Yeah.
So we wanted to give a fair playing field.
Yeah.
And then so we did that, and so we have all these wonderful people that support our causes, and we partnered with, and we had the Murphy family here build the Andrew Rypien Field over at in the Hilliard area to give those kids a level playing field. Honor Andrew there too, so that they go every day, because you go up to the north side and you go to the Joe Albee Stadium there and all those wonderful fields there. Kids can benefit from. Go up to the South Hill, and all these people have this, but the Hilliard area didn't have anything for these poor kids, and the playing field was weighed in one direction. So now we're trying to give at least them a fair opportunity there, and to honor Andrew at that, and just the community involvement with.
Pain into purpose.
Totally, it gives you really a feeling of life after a tragic event or anything.
Anything.
I mean, I have a seasonal affective disorder anyway. During October and the sun goes down. So you compound that. And that first year was
I can't imagine.
Just so.
Yeah.
This was a great direction and pathway to something to remember Andrew and also make
giving
the life
back heals the soul.
easier. And
your mind is. I know I said it earlier. I love how you earnestly recall these. You have a sharp mind for remembering who contributed or
people's names.
The good news is I was a quarterback. I didn't get hit every play. I got hit a few times. Back then, they just didn't push you down. They tried to turn you upside down.
I've watched old clips.
And pile drive. The old clips are great. It's like everyone wonders why Tom Brady played for those many years. Well, the rules gave him an opportunity to play for those many years. And he took advantage of it.
He leveraged it.
Your daughter texted me. She goes, "My dad has the best memory of people's names. He'll never forget someone's name."
It's a sign of caringness. I think.
Well, thanks, Steve and Tom.
Mark, I'm really grateful that you did this with us today. It's very cool.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, thanks, Eric.
It was amazing.
Pretty fun. Yeah, good stuff. And like I say, now it's just the holidays here, having the kids back, and
Yeah, that's cool.
it's
Yeah,
just it's like I mean, it was. So I'd go out there because my ex and her husband live in Naples, and
Yep.
so they couldn't this year. They couldn't. Usually they have the kids down for Christmas. They have a big Christmas, but they had their place there getting done down there in Naples, and so they were living on their boat, so they couldn't really do it. So it kind of was like, all right, well, this is good.
That's cool.
Either way, I would have flown down there, even if they wanted to go on the boat with their
Yeah,
mom.
yeah.
Whatever. Their mom says, no, go out and visit your dad, and I was the only thing I'm hoping for is snow, because that's
Yeah.
all they want.
It's
to see is
amazing.
Yeah,
You're
because they're in Florida. Yeah.
Florida and
like-
Baltimore. Yeah,
Yeah.
Amber's in Baltimore and
family.
Answer's
It transcends time. The Super Bowls come and go, and opportunities come and go.
Totally.
And,
Family's right
here
there.
we are talking to a man. He's been at the pinnacle of sports, and he's like
Yeah.
keeping my competitive spirit fired up and
100%.
loving on these little people. I mean,
Well, I mean, and making more memories.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like I say, the one thing that
the relationship.
the relationship we have. Unfortunately, we're in a country now that wants to cancel a lot of history, but
true.
we can make our own history, and they can never cancel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking about
Yours.
create your own economy.
Yeah,
Yeah. Just tend to your
It
own
resonates.
beautiful personal
Totally.
life.
Yeah.
totally.
It's
I mean,
amazing.
what? Unfortunately, we get involved in way too many other people's business around the
true.
world. We
Yeah,
just
yeah.
need to take care of our own.
100%.
Our
Amen.
It's all you
community
can
here
do.
in Coeur d'Alene, my community that I live in now in Spokane.
That's why we're doing this show.
Absolutely, you should, and that's
Yeah.
the reason people need hope. And,
Yeah.
and that was our foundation, hope.
Yeah.
For families battling
Yeah.
childhood cancer, and hope is such a huge word.
Yeah.
It is an underused word too.
Yeah.
'cause-
It really is.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the spirit of, I think, what we're trying to achieve
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
And it's cool.
Well, I appreciate you guys doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Eric and
Appreciate
Matt.
you.
I mean,
Thank
bringing awareness, bringing stories, bringing
Yeah.
opportunities for people to see. Yes, oh wow, he even was at the pinnacle of all pinnacles. Went through a very, very difficult, trying time, and you come out the other end.
You do.
You
right?
do. Yeah.
That's a
And you
story
will,
of
and
hope.
Maybe you'll come out better.
Yeah. Maybe you'll
And
impact the world.
Totally.
And trust me when I tell you, Andrew's in this room right now.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
Undeniable.
Yeah,
Like
I have a
he's
1.5
looking
year old.
down.
I can't imagine what just snuggling with him in the last weeks in bed. I just,
Oh, it's just the greatest feeling.
I'm happy.
He was
I'm happy you had that with
Not
him.
that that was good, but he was more of a mama's boy. He loved
Was
his
he?
mama.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. And so I actually had to drift in order to get really, really close to him. We rented some He loved Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh yeah.
So we rented Chuck E. Cheese, but in the middle of June and July. And
Yeah.
You're wearing that for him.
Yeah.
That's true love. Yeah.
True love. Everyone, the whole family did, because I could get close to him, but I mean,
Yeah.
my mom would wear it, my brothers would wear it. We'd have
Oh, that's
family.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Just
They'd
so
come
he-
to the lake almost every day for like a month.
Oh, that's so
but we didn't know when that day would come.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts. I mean, I've got history of my cousin too, who's done, because of his Ricky Rip Foundation, has done amazing things in Canada for mental health. Rick
cool.
committed suicide. He was a member of the Vancouver Canucks.
So
Rick
sorry.
Rypien, and
It's heartbreaking.
was a great player. Just signed with the Winnipeg Jets, and had some his own mental health
And
issues.
mental
that
health
he
is a
couldn't-
big topic.
Yep.
Big topic.
And he was a tough fighter, And,
Sure, a lot of them are.
Yeah, and a lot of them
They're
are.
warriors.
Because of that, those warriors, they have that, maybe a warrior gene too, along with being hit in the head and that, and it's our military. I mean, it's all our military.
everywhere.
Is, yeah. I mean, if we can promote good,
This is
solid ways to come out the other end, and
Yeah.
I mean, and instead of giving just kind of opioids and throwing out the door, say, hey, go, here's
luck.
diagnose you with this, good luck. Get them on some health related things, some
Yeah,
things,
right.
naturopathic health.
Physical.
Yeah, that's the
Physical
heart.
things.
That's the heart and soul of, I think, of all these people we keep conversating around. What you basically just said is that the spirit of most people that are having a good effect in the world, they're leaving a positive mark. That is the spirit of what they're doing, and we try to inspire others to do the same. Even if you think you can't make a difference, like I beg to differ. Like the greatest version of you is capable of doing amazing things in this life. Incredible things, and in getting around this is you got to be doing it. You got to get in the right room. You got to get near the right people. And I always think this too, like when I was thinking about like with coaching in general, like mentorship, sort of being around people that inspire you. If Tom Brady and Mark Rypien, if they need a coach, what makes you think you don't need to get around someone that can hold a mirror to you and help you move forward in life? A lot of people, they don't do this kind of work. They don't really do a lot of personal development work and figure out how to turn whatever it is that they're dealing with into momentum, into something that can help other people, which I find is where money actually exists, is when you start giving to the world, unique opportunities just start swarming all around you.
Totally.
You don't seek money, you seek becoming valuable, and that is easy to do when you're around people like Mark. So Mark, this is really cool, and I'm thankful for you.
I think it is, and vice versa too. It can lead you down a different path where you get around people
Exactly.
that aren't. And
it works both ways.
That's what we don't want to talk about, but there is that other side.
It works
to
the same way,
and it's just a matter about getting a core group of people,
right people,
and family and friends that support.
100%
what you're doing. And I know the military. I mean, I did do a lot of work with not a lot of work, but I've the work that they need and the teamwork that they have and support groups and put people in the right direction, whether it be TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation, whether it be the hyperbolic chambers, whether it be
they're doing microdosing now, which
they're
apparently
doing
huge for neural pathways.
Even mushroom pills.
Yeah, it
and
works.
Things, that works to some, and to others it might not.
We've had some great podcast guests on that talked about that had a lot of trauma that have overcome it, and a lot of the stuff that is super actually helpful. And it's not prescriptions; it's always something in nature that is.
That's
you know what I mean?
Will get them through. Inevitably,
it's health.
Inevitably, the other thing is too is that you can get a very elaborate blood test that can find out there is your brain and body where you're deficient, and get some natural products that will help that
it's light years.
And it might be vitamin D.
It could be
for all we know. It
magnesium.
If you live in this area, get on D3 this
100%.
Absolutely, especially this time of year. Get as much as you can.
Well, we want our audience to be able to, if they want to contribute to your causes, where can we send them to contribute if they feel compelled?
Well, the Rypien Foundation, we're blessed, again, to have a community in Spokane. Mark Few is a real good friend. Saw him last night.
He's a legend.
His my daughter, our granddaughter Malaya, some of her girlfriends are playing. Ninth graders are starting for Gonzaga Prep varsity basketball team. And,
amazing.
And Ayla, who's she played with and is just a wonderful kid. Gonzaga Prep. So we went to the game yesterday, and Julia Few, Mark's daughter, Marcy's daughter, they're both at the game, and talked to Mark for a little bit. I want to make sure he watches the game. He goes, Rip, you don't have to, because his daughter's just an unbelievable defensive player. She doesn't shoot much. I'm not going to miss any of her shots because she doesn't shoot. So stick around here. But then Marcy came, and I just want them to enjoy the game.
That's so cool.
Anyhow, Ayla played with with Malaya, scored freshman, starting freshman. She's the shooting guard next to Julia Few, and she scored 34 of the 57.
Oh, wow.
34 of the 57.
Wow.
I mean, this girl is like
amazing.
She's like that girl from Iowa. What's her name? Caitlin.
I know you're talking about.
Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, in the NCAA.
Yeah, NCAA.
Yeah, she's just like
that special.
Well, Mark's on our list. Put a good word in for us.
I will. So Well, Mark is. If you want to
he's not easy to get.
Talk fishing.
Fishing's the game. We have a lot of mutual friends, so I'm going to try to leverage those relationships. I got Ryan Gee on the task right now.
Ryan Gee's awesome.
He's awesome guy. And Fritz, we're going to try to.
So anyway, so Mark, started the Coaches versus Cancer, and he saw the need he saw the amount of exposure and energy Coaches versus Cancer got, but he also knew that the dollars weren't all earmarked towards this area. And Mark's the guy that, hey, if he's going to put some work into it, he wants those daughters he wants that money locally.
Sure.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't he? So he started him and Ryan and Fritz. Started and Jared Kiefer started the Community Cancer Fund. And we merged with the Community Cancer Fund.
That's what I thought. I was going to ask you.
Did to leverage our dollars.
Sure.
This is a small community.
You got to be smart.
Yeah. And so they do amazing work. So I do some ambassadorship for them and work with them and play in the golf tournament here. And they just do an amazing job. I mean, to think, I tell people, I says, we have a weekend here where we raise $5 million. We net about $3 million.
That's amazing.
But we raised $5 million.
It's incredible, right here in the Inland Northwest.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Unbelievable. They go, what?
Yeah.
I go, yeah. And I just went to the Payne Stewart Foundation with his son Aaron ran it, and they were doing work for underprivileged kids that don't have introduce them to golf, and not golf necessarily golf, but chipping and little play golf things to get them introduced to golf and see where they go. And it raised, in the Floridian, which is a really elite club, and it raised about $1 million, and they were like,
that's
wow,
not
it's
easy to
amazing.
do.
And they go, I told them what we did. They go, what?
Yeah.
How do we get involved?
Yeah,
and I go,
right.
well,
That's awesome.
it's expensive nowadays.
Yeah.
It's like $50,000 for
Well,
foursome, but it's amazing that the work that Fritz and Jared and Ryan do, and
They've
Mark's
been great
Mark's a big,
ambassadors for
incredible.
Coeur d'Alene.
Incredible.
Tapped
You know,
into
they built the Ronald McDonald House here. Then they added
Yeah.
on to the Ronald McDonald House for adults
Yep.
right
Yeah.
next to it, and they just had the groundbreaking for that. You know, and so they
Yeah.
got
It's
That's
quiet.
cool.
Not a lot of people know that. It's right here in Coeur d'Alene.
right here.
No,
in
these
Coeur
guys are
d'Alene.
doing amazing things, and they really were resourceful because Coeur d'Alene draws a lot of wealth, a lot of money, and these guys were really great at figuring out how to tackle something and leverage it in a way that most people couldn't see that are locals here. And I thought it was good for Coeur d'Alene. What they're doing for this Inland Northwest market is just amazing. And Spokane, it's all relative. We're all neighbors.
Community cancer.
Yeah,
Community Cancer Fund.
Yeah.
Community
Yep.
Cancer Fund, if you want to.
And it's great because Kelly Chase is a hockey player, played for the St. Louis Blues for a lot of years, a member at Gaza across the way. He was diagnosed with a form of leukemia, and so he did his treatment here. He stayed here in Coeur d'Alene, and he's doing great.
Amazing.
And so
Oh, he
just-
experienced it here.
yeah.
That's cool.
So he, came through the whole thing and is doing wonderful.
Good for
and
him.
it's wonderful.
Keep praying
like I
for
say,
him.
wonderful people, and absolutely.
Well, we got a good audience. We'll ask all of our audience to pray for all these children, all these guys
Amen
that
to
are going
that,
through
yeah.
all this, hard
Yeah,
stuff. Like
yeah. No
when I
one's
do
immune
this,
to it.
I'm so grateful right now. I'm always grateful when I'm around people that have overcome hardship, and it makes me want to do something totally different with my time. Like I want to max this out
does,
all the way. I'm all in on this, but it's because of these great people.
Because we never know, and
No,
you
you
could.
don't.
Every one of us in this room could raise their hand that someone's been affected with
100%.
cancer.
Yeah, my
or
grandma,
some
yeah,
debilitation,
my best friend,
of some sort. It's just we're not immune to it at all, and all we can do is share the good word
Yeah.
that you guys are doing. And
This is cool.
Thank you,
Well, this
Mark.
is how,
So awesome
you know
to
what
have
you know what, Mark.
Mateo, appreciate it. Thank you,
I do go by Mateo. So
Eric.
that's good. Yeah.
Nice.
This is how we're fighting back against the evil that destroys freedom and innocence around the world. One of the things that we actually do by inspiring other people to stop their victimhood and stop their bitching and complaining is to go do something. Go help someone. Be
Particularly
grateful.
Kids and innocence.
Somehow I feel like we're fighting back against the system that's actually destroying freedom. So I don't know if that's my belief that this is actually having that unique butterfly effect, but thank you so much.
Yeah, that's all we can do.
Appreciate you, man.
Without being political on anything.
We're not getting political.
No, but you can make a difference by
100%.
being the difference.
I'm with you.
Yeah. Start at
This
home.
is cool, Mark. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Mark.
Cheers, brother.
I'm a man on a mission. I'm a man on a mission.